Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope everyone is well. We've got about a dozen people on. I'll wait about one more minute because I've started a little early. Can you believe it, right? Huh? Yeah, we'll start in about 30 seconds from now. I'll get all my screens lined up and ready. Hope everyone's good. Looks like we see a few of the usual suspects on there. Debbie, Pam Johnson, hello, Jan, Ever Blooming Originals. I really feel like I should know your name, but I can't quite make the connection there. A couple of Jennifers, that's great. We should have a couple of Debbies on soon. We normally have a couple of each. All right. Hope everyone is good. Okay. All right, we're going to start right on 12 today. So, it's not a huge agenda today, but there's some interesting questions that popped up in the group and something that Pam wanted me to remind people about as well. So I'll talk about that towards the end as well. So let's dive into the presentation. I'm just going to switch screens here. Watch me rock the technology here, everyone. All right. Oh, Cian. Okay. All right. Okay, now I'm making the connection. All right. So today's agenda, we've got five topics I wanted to cover, which are connected to different questions that people have been asking. Let's see. So, great living. I'm going to get to your question in a second. That's a good one. So, advertising. I'm going to talk about that again. Finding the right keywords for your listings. I'm going to talk briefly about the Spotted on Etsy feature. Some differences between the keyword tool and the keyword explorer that you should know about. And this one's a little bit of a tougher one, but this is a question that came up this morning as well, which is about multiple listings for the same product. So I'm going to dive in. As always, get your questions into the comments. I'll try and get through all of those or as many as I can during the session. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, please, and give it a thumbs up if you like it. That way you can get notifications when we create new videos, which I'll be doing a few more this week as well. All right, so advertising. So we had a couple of questions, and I'm going to pair them together because there's a little bit of overlap here. But Wesley and Andrew had a couple of questions. Wesley he's had some bad experiences with advertising, and I have too. There's a lot of good and bad that is out there. And he feels like it's a bit like gambling or just burning money, which is so true. If you don't advertise effectively or with a bit of thought, then you can just burn through cash very, very quickly. And I think a lot of you have probably been stung by that as well. So I'm going to give you a few little tips in there. He's asking, is it worthwhile trying Etsy ads now? Should he wait until we know how effective they are? And Andrew's asking another advertising question in here, which is also a good one here, which is what listings should we advertise? Should we advertise all of them? Should we pick and choose? And if it's pick and choose, which one? So I'll try and give you some good general advice, and then maybe you can go away and experiment and let me know what you come back with. The first thing I will say, and you can see it right at the beginning of the slide, is that there's not really enough data at the moment to gauge Etsy ads performance. I've got a lot of anecdotal feedback that's come in, which is greatly varied. At the positive end of the spectrum, it seems to be neutral for some sellers. For some power sellers out there, fairly neutral. But there are also a lot of people that have just said it's tanked, there's nothing there. My wife's shop, her ROI is about half of what it used to be with promoted listings. So that's interesting. We're waiting another week before we start tinkering. I want to have at least a couple of weeks of data in the system to see if there's anything that's really pulling down the averages and the stats, and maybe remove those and put a few other listings that we think are better. And Andrew, that'll probably tie into your question in a second. So first of all, if you are considering running ads, first thing I'd always suggest is check your profit margins. So if you sell something that's got, maybe it's a high shipping cost, you've got materials, maybe you have some helpers, and the margins aren't so good, you may want to think twice before considering advertising, or at least have a very good idea of how much you can afford. Because if your product has maybe $5 of profit and your advertising cost is $4, it may not be worth your while. So make sure you check your profit margins. We've got a couple of calculators on eRank which can help you figure out your profit margins and your ROI. So do that first of all. I want to make sure that people, if you're experimenting with it, you're running something that's profitable for you, that's good for your business, rather than a loss-making exercise, which no one wants that, right? Second thing is, when you're considering advertising, think about the time of year. So if you specialize in Halloween and fall home decor, now's the best time for you guys, right? You've really got those early shoppers. You're actually coming into peak shoppers very shortly. So you really want to be looking at what you can do to grow your business during that time, if that's what you sell. So think about when those early shoppers start to search on Etsy, when they're buying the most, what's the peak period? Is it October or November? And when do those last minute shoppers also search on Etsy? That's really something that's really important here. You don't want to be running advertising now if your peak season is 6 months from now. There's not really much point. If there's no demand, you can't artificially stimulate demand through advertising. You've really got to fish where the fish are, so to speak. So that's kind of what you should be doing, targeting or doing advertising, or advertising those products that are going to be hot now or very, very shortly in the near term. Avoid those ones that are 6 months away. The other thing I'd say is set a daily budget. And sorry if I'm being Captain Obvious here, but set a daily budget that you can afford. The last thing I'd want to see is people have $100 a day budget, get to the end of the month, they see their statement, they go, where did $3,000 go? So set something that you're comfortable with. Like Wesley said, think of it a little bit like gambling, because you must be mentally prepared to walk away with absolutely nothing in your hands. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. Advertising should work well. Etsy are giving us very encouraging messaging around their algorithms and their automatic thingamajigs that apparently going to work really well. But just be prepared that you may have to walk away with nothing, just like gambling. Not a fan of gambling, so just keep that in mind. Be very, very aware that it could backfire. Now that's an extreme sort of view. As I said, I'm seeing various comments from people around it's working much the same as before, a little bit less, but still okay, and sometimes a lot worse. So, you'll have to figure it out for yourself. I can't help you right at that level there. The other thing, which I touched on just briefly with my wife's shop, review performance over a slightly longer period of time. So as most of you will know, you'll have good days and bad days on Etsy, and invariably you have a good day and then a bad day, and a good day and a bad day, or several bad days and then a good day. You don't want to have a good day and then a bad day and then you go, oh, that's it, it's not working for me, let's turn it off, because that good day could be just around the corner. It could be very profitable for you. So I really recommend you take a longer period of time to try and smooth out those dips and those peaks so that you can get a good idea of, on a weekly or on a fortnightly or even a monthly basis, is it working well for you? And it's providing you've got a daily budget that you're comfortable with. I think this is a really good approach to take. It stops you from having these knee-jerk reactions where you freak out because you have one bad day and then you never try it again. And conversely, if you have a really good day and you think, wow, it's always going to be like that, that's not necessarily reality either. So take a longer period of time to look at your stats. Lastly, and Andrew, this is really for you, take a look at those listings that convert best. Because if they convert well in organic searches, the probability is that they will convert well with advertising as well. Not always true, but we're talking probabilities here. So that's what I would always pick on. My wife's been doing that with her shop. Like I said, we don't know why her ROI has dropped in half. Perhaps she's in categories that are very popular on Google Shopping, but they may be, those looky-loos, those people that are really just curious to know what's going on rather than ready to purchase. So we have to do some deeper analysis there. So, guys, I hope that helps. It's, pretty general, I know, but hopefully there are some good nuggets there. I did want to tackle one other point, and this is where I'm getting a little biased. I try not to be too biased, but I am a search guy. I've been doing search marketing, since 2001. So I've been around for a little while with that, and I'm showing my age here, but I really prefer search-based advertising to social media. And there's a good reason why I'm passionate about this. When you're in a search engine, it could be Google, it could be Etsy, it could be Google Shopping. Typically, the user has some purchase intent in mind, especially if you're on Etsy. You're not there to hang out with people and have conversations. You're there because you have something in mind. There is a purchase intent there. So that's why I like search advertising. There's usually strong purchase intent. And the other bonus is the buyer is telling you what they're looking for. This is phenomenal. This is why Google has been so damn successful. You imagine it, right? Here's a buyer, they're telling you what you're looking for. Here's an advertiser with a web page with relevant keywords. It's just like a dating agency. They connect the two together, a transaction occurs. So that's why I really, really love search advertising. Social media advertising, Facebook advertising, and others, they can be successful. I think they're good from a branding perspective, but I think advertising on social media is a bit like running through a kid's game of soccer, and you're running through the field and you're going, hey kids, who wants to buy a shirt? Who wants to buy a shirt? They're not there to buy anything. They're there to have fun with their friends. That's what I think of social media. So, I'm using a bit of an extreme example there, but I do think that you want to be careful about how you advertise in social media, especially if you don't have a lot of money to spend on advertising. If you want to be frugal and minimize waste, think twice about social media, understand its strengths and whether that aligns with your objectives or your goals. And if you think that it's not quite connected there, maybe leave that alone and focus on Etsy or Etsy ads or search advertising in general. So I hope that helps there. Again, a little biased. I am a search guy right to the very core, and I do prefer search advertising for those reasons. All right, I'm going to pause for a second, take a sip of water, and see if there are any questions that have popped up. Okay, let's scroll back through the list here. Bear with me. All right. Got some familiar names logging in. That's great. Hey, everyone. Jennifer, I think we talked briefly. Maureen, good morning from Atlanta. Great living from Texas. All right. Okay. Let's see. So, Great Living, I don't know what your name is, but Great Living is asking, can you consider making the calendar printable? I'm assuming you're talking about the eRank calendar. I think it's a great idea. I did try to do it once before, but couldn't quite figure out how to do it. But the good news is we've hired a new developer that's on the team now, and he's a little bit of a whiz kid. So I'm going to see if this is something that he can do for us, because it may be something he can just turn around like that, and then people can suddenly download that calendar. And while we're talking about the calendar, if you go in there, just a friendly reminder, if you see a date or there's a specific event or significant date that's not in the calendar, let me know. I know that we're pretty good with the US, and we've got some UK holidays and Australian holidays and a few religious holidays, but we're not great yet. So if you have any that you're aware of, let us know. Send us a bit of feedback. That can really help us, help you, remind you, and others as well. So, we're a community. Let's see if we can contribute in that way. So thanks for asking that question there. Let's see. Oops, sorry. I'm just trying to catch up on my screen here. There's a few messages coming in. Hey Siri. Pam is asking, does that mean you like Google Shopping as search engine advertising? Jury's out on that. I haven't used Google Shopping directly. The principles are much the same. You go to the search engine, the buyer types something in, and they see relevant results. So I like that a lot. Now, the problem I'm seeing with Google Shopping, my suspicion is that when people are using Google Shopping, they're very early on in their research phase. So they're probably typing in very broad terms, which you will see in the Trend Buzz report. You will see there are a lot of one-word searches in the top 100 Google Shopping search terms. So I suspect that they skew a little bit early. They're people still in research mode. And the other problem I see is that not every person that uses Google Shopping is a member on Etsy yet. So imagine that, right? You're on Google Shopping, you see something, and you go, that looks like an interesting listing. I'm going to go click on that. You get to Etsy, then you've got to either sign in or create an account, use a guest checkout or things like that. It may be a slight barrier to purchasing in there. So I definitely like it, but I don't think it's going to ever be as lucrative or as strong as Etsy or advertising on the Etsy site itself. Because once you're on Etsy, you're already a member, or you should be a member. And I just think that conversion rate from Etsy will be much stronger. So in terms of, pecking order, probably right up the top is Etsy or advertising on Etsy, probably Google Shopping below that somewhere, and then it starts to get a little bit sketchy. So it may be Google itself, Facebook, whatever. I'd love to hear if anyone's had success using external advertising to their shop on Etsy. But that's my general preference there. All right. Oh, good. Thank you, Andrew. Glad that helped. All right. Great living is Cherie. Okay, Cherie. Good to know. I hope I remember. All right. Pam is asking here, sorry, I can see you say that you like Google Shopping right there on your slide. Yeah, I do. It's just not my top priority. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to move on because I think I've caught up on the questions now. So, second one, and this is a great question that pops up all the time. And it's really around finding the right keywords for your listings. And Angela and Siri have got some related questions here. Angela told us a little bit about the problem she's got using eRank Pro to find the right words for her listing. And Siri asks about this no data available, which is one of those dreaded sort of terms that the Keyword Explorer does come back with from time to time. And Siri wants to know, how do we evaluate keywords like that? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. I'm going to give you a little recap on Longtail keywords while I go about it. So, as a general rule, Etsy and SEO experts will really encourage you to use Longtail keywords. But they they give you some good ideas about what they look like as well. So let's look at that. So, first of all, a long tail keyword is typically 3 words or more. It's a search term that contains three or more words. It's not a hard rule, but that's a general rule on how to quickly spot one. If you're a mathematician or into statistics, then the real answer is long tail keywords are those keywords that aren't searched as much as most other keywords. So there are actually a lot of them. It's probably like an 80-20 rule or something like that. But I'm not going to, get into the minor details here. The key point is that they're typically 3 words or more, but most importantly, they are usually descriptive and should be relevant to your listing. So, you're looking for words that tell a buyer what the product is, who it's for, sizes and textures, styles, patterns, colors, places and occasions. So if you see a phrase that has got words that tell you those sort of things, then you're starting to get into interesting long tail keywords, especially if those extra words relate to your listing, because that's where the relevancy kicks in. So that all sounds a little bit vague and wishy-washy. So I'm going to really give you an example in a second, but I wanted to give you this thought. Imagine your listing had 5 words in it, just 5 words. Here's the beauty of search engines. They will try and find every possible combination and permutation of those 5 words to try and match you to a buyer. So with just 5 words, you potentially, well, there's 325 different permutations or combinations of search phrases that your listing could be matched for. That's with a listing with just 5 words. Imagine that, 5 one-word tags and those same 5 words in the title. That's a lot of combinations already. Now, if you've got, I think a typical listing probably has about 30 to 50 different words in there. Suddenly you're getting up to 20 million different possible combinations and permutations. A lot of them are going to be absolute rubbish, but there's going to be some gold in there as well. So that's the beauty of long-tail keywords. And I'm going to switch over into a demo now just to really show you how this works, because it's really powerful when you think about it. And this is going to be similar to a demo I gave about a year ago. So some of you may remember that, but this is really it's really the thought process I go through when I'm looking for a long tail keyword that has some good potential. So let me switch my screens and we shall dive into the demo. Okay, going to take a quick sip. All right, so if you get any questions as I go through this, feel free to put them into the chat window. If you've got a couple of examples as well, maybe we'll take a look at those as well. Let me just make sure I've got my example here. Sorry guys, switching screens. Okay, so in my example, I put in boho sterling silver necklace for mum. And we get back that dreaded, oh no, we've got no data, panic, what are we going to do? This is what Siri is talking about, there's no data available. So does this mean it's bad? Well, no. It could be that I just chose a really bad example, but there are fragments of this long tail keyword and combinations and permutations of these words that become really powerful. So let me do this for you. I'm going to take it right back to the bare basic. What is this item? And essentially it's a necklace. So I'm going to start with necklace. Pardon my typing here. And so I type in necklace and what do we get back? Come on, eRank. Joys of live demos, right? Okay, so necklace, 36,000 searches. So here's the good thing straight away. If you had that long tail keyword and you're thinking, is it good or not? Well, first of all, it's going to match necklace straight away. So there's 36,000 keywords straight up for you. Now let's pick a few other combinations of those words. I'm just going to choose some sort of obvious ones here. So I'm going to say silver necklace. That was in there. So how many searches does that get a month? Because you're going to get matched for that as well. Your listing will get matched for that. So we've got another, I'm writing this down as I go actually. We've got another 6,000 searches there. You see where I'm going with this, right? So now let's pick on another variation, sterling silver necklace. See what we get there. Over 8,000 searches now. So that's pretty cool as well. Let's pick a slightly different variation now. So boho. And I'll do one more because I think it gets a bit repetitive after that. So now you can see another 2,300 searches there for boho necklace. And last one is necklace for mum. Remember, for, that's one of those stop words, which basically means that Etsy will ignore that. You can put them in or you can leave them out. I like to put them in the titles because it makes it a bit more readable. But in the tags, words like for, in, of, they're stop words. You don't need them in your tags. Necklace for mum, the last example that I'm going to share with you here, over 1,000 searches for that as well. So when I see that dreaded, oh no, unknown search volume, things like that, I don't panic. What I'm looking for is a nice long tail keyword that accurately describes what I'm trying to sell. Then I try and break it down with some popular combinations of those words, just like I gave you in the example there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to switch back to my presentation, because what I want to show you here is what it looks like when you add it all up. So boho sterling silver necklace for mum, we saw 36,000 searches for necklace, over 6,000 for silver necklace, 8,000 for sterling silver necklace, over 2,000 for boho necklace, and another 1,000 for necklace for mum. So just picking 5 of those 325 different combinations and variations netted me 60,000 different searches. So that tells me that maybe that Longtail keyword statistically doesn't look so good, but when you break it down into all those little components and sub-phrases and things like that, it starts to get really interesting. So my recommendation there is, don't be put off by the low search volume or unknown search data that you see there. Look at the components that make up that Longtail keyword and go, well, you know what? If this accurately describes my listing, the recipient, the textures, the styles, or whatever, then it's probably going to be a very good word or a good phrase for you to include in your title, or maybe split it up into a couple of your tags. So I hope that helps Angela and Siri answer your questions there. I think I had one more point I wanted to make. Oh, that was it. All right, so I'm going to pause there because this is a pretty heavy sort of concept, especially when you start talking about combinations and permutations. I know, I was okay at mathematics, but it sort of does my head in a little bit. But I'm going to pause, see if there are any questions, and then I'll move on to the next slide. Okay. So Hazel's, let's see, I suggested not advertising products that hadn't sold in the past year. My low interaction products have high conversion rates. My best selling items have loads of views and a 1% conversion rate. Is there much risk to advertising products that get few views? The risk is going to vary from product to product, time of year, whether it's a trending product or whether it's a product that's going to or is in decline. It's really hard for me to say one way or the other without knowing what the product is and the level of interest that people have out there, that demand. I think anything that has a good conversion rate, or products that are similar to that don't necessarily have a good conversion rate yet, but they're very similar, they're probably worthwhile experimenting with. If it hasn't sold for a year, but it sold about a year ago, and it may have been a seasonal item, then it's probably worth reconsidering running an ad for that again. And again, it depends on whether that product is seasonal, whether it's evergreen. I think some of you would have seen the decline that slime is going through. It's still got very healthy search volume, but it's sort of dropping like this. If you've got a product, I'm trying to think of an example here that's gone from super popular to just non-existent, probably something like fidget spinners or something like that. If that's what you're selling, maybe not really wise to advertise that anymore. Yeah, so sorry, I can't really give you any great guidance there without knowing a little bit more about what's being sold and doing a bit of research to understand what the buyer demand could be like for that, Hazel. But I hope it helps. All right, gallery gifts. Hiya, finally made it. Oh, it's Anne-Marie. Okay, hey Anne-Marie. Let's see. It's true that you may rank higher for an exact match, right? Yes, it is, yeah. So Etsy have said that an exact match does have a slight boost in ranking, slight. So would having silver necklace be helpful if that shop has so many sales that they might reach page 1 on a search for silver? Sorry, let me try and reread this again. Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer your question there. Let me think about that one for a second. I might come back to you shortly, or if you want to rephrase it, I might be able to get it. Sorry, it must be a bit slow today. Moonlover's Jewelry. Can we add overall shop rank by country on main page? It's a worldwide rank, but saves time to have the US rank too. That's a neat little idea. I like that. Yeah, let me see what we can do there. I think it would be pretty cool to know where you rank in your own country, especially for a lot of folks outside of the US. where it's harder to sell, there's some really good bragging rights that can be gained there. All right, I'm going to move on, but I know I've got a question I might have to come back to later on, or it may be homework for me to get back to you there. All right, let's move on to the next slide, because we've got a few more. So Jan asks, and this is a fairly easy one for me, she asks about spotted on Etsy. Are the keywords that are shown in there, are they keywords that shoppers have entered into Etsy, or are they keywords that people have been using in eRank's monitor tool? And the answer is basically it's what eRanksters entered into the monitor tool. I think that we can't really tie it to what people are searching for. Well, maybe we could. Yeah, I'm going to think about that, Jan. You've got me ticking away here on that. But right now, what you see in there is based on what people are monitoring using eRank's monitor tool. Okay. So Pamela asks a great question about the Keyword Explorer. Wants a bit of clarification. She says in here, Keyword Explorer is terms that people search for, and Keyword Tool is terms that are used by sellers on Etsy. And for the most part, that's actually very true. So I do want to elaborate though a little bit, because I think it's important to understand the differences here. So the Keyword Tool, what it does is you type in silver necklace. eRank will go and download the top 100 listings or the top 100 results from the Etsy API. And then it will go and analyze those listings to find out what tags were used. And then we will show you on the screen the most popular tags that sellers have used. What we will do will include the competition levels in there. And if you're a pro member, we'll also include how many times those tags or the keywords in those tags were searched by buyers on Etsy. And this is important because now you've got an idea of what your competitors are using, what your peers are using, and you can see how popular they are with buyers. So you're kind of looking at it from a different angle. I really like it because sometimes you can learn a lot from sellers that have got more experience than you. And at the same time, you get that additional view on how many times those keywords have been searched for on Etsy. We also include in there how many times a month, on average, it's been searched for on Google Shopping and on Google as well. And just remember, Google Shopping and Google, that's like web search and shopping search. So they are the two very different search engines that are operated by Google. But these are all good perspectives to have. What I think the main benefit here, though, is getting great keyword ideas from other sellers that are selling similar listings. The second part to the answer for this question is around the Keyword Explorer. So this shows you those search terms that people have been typing into Etsy. It's showing you the most popular ones that we can find in our database here that are very similar to what you typed into the box there. This is a Pro-only feature, so sorry if you don't have access to Pro. But again, much like the Keyword Tool, it will show you the average number of searches per month on Etsy, on Google Shopping, and on Google Web Search as well. The benefit here, the real benefit here, is you get great long-tail keyword ideas because it's based on what searchers or buyers are looking for on Etsy, not on the tags. The tags are typically up to 20 characters, and they're basically, in some respects, they're best guesses from sellers, whereas we've got insight into what people are searching for in this. So you've got two different angles that we're approaching. One's from the buyer's perspective, the other one's from the seller's perspective. I like to use them in conjunction, and I hope that helps you understand the differences between them. So the first one, the benefit is getting great keyword ideas from other sellers, and the second one, the Keyword Explorer, is getting great long-tail keyword ideas. So I hope that helps you there, Pamela. Okay. All right, so a few little comments pop in here, so I will just catch up there. All right, Deb. Okay, thanks for making note of the homework there. Ever Blooming Originals, I will get back to you on that. I think I'll be able to answer it, but for whatever reason, I'm put on the spot and I'm a bit stumped. Let's see. Pam can you answer the question, when using the Keyword Explorer tool, that your keyword shows no searches but says 11,000 Etsy competition engagement is very high? Yeah, so I can. So what we would do is we have two different databases that we look at here. One is the search popularity database for, not a great name, but it tells us how often those terms are searched for on Etsy. The other one, the competition and engagement, we take the data directly from Etsy. So we'll look at those search results for that phrase. Etsy tell us how many other listings there are, so we can tell you what the competition level's like. And they also tell us statistics about the listings that are shown, so we can start to glean what the engagement rate is like. So that's why we can show you competition and engagement estimates when there is no search volume data that we've got there. So it's a little confusing, but I hope that helps answer your question there. All right. So Pam also asked, how is engagement high when there is no data for searches? So in those situations, what we do, we're looking at the views and favorites of the results that we get back, and we have some algorithms that try to calculate the probability of people engaging there. So that's why we can do that when we don't have search volume data in there. Let's see, Siri. So boho sterling isn't the same as boho necklace, but Etsy will still see boho necklace, and you have to put boho necklace. Let's see. So let me go back a little bit here. All right, so Siri, if you had, say for example, this phrase in your title, providing, let me try and phrase it differently. If someone searches on Etsy for any of these words and your listing has those words in there, it will match. So if they search for silver necklace and your listing has silver necklace in there because it's got boho sterling silver necklace for mum, you'll be considered a match. If you have a person search for boho necklace, your listing will match. If you have boho silver necklace, it'll match. All those different variations, it'll match your listing to that person that's searching. Now, if that person searches for boho sterling silver necklace for mum for Christmas, and you don't have Christmas in your title or tag somewhere, you won't get matched. That's the key thing here. You have to make sure that your listing has all those words in your title or tag somewhere. Okay, I hope that helps. All right. Let's see. Orange fall wreath. What have we got here? But we're pretty big and place on page 1 for search on fall wreath. So would the tag fall wreath be helpful for us to use? Orange fall wreath. Let me read this one. Sorry folks, I'm a little bit dim here today. Let's see, orange fall wreath instead, but we're pretty big and place on page 1 for search for fall wreath. So would the tag fall wreath be helpful for us to use? Absolutely it would be. I suspect if you're on page 1 you've already got it in there. And yeah, if you have that exact match, I think you're going to get a tiny little benefit. I think the weight of an exact match and its impact on ranking is probably a lot lower than the number of sales you've had after someone searched for that term, and other things like the amount of positive feedback that you've had in there. I don't know if I'm answering your question fully, but like I said, you've got me really thinking here. I think that this is some homework that I need to take away. So Deb, if you can make a note of that as well, and we'll see what we can get back to you with. We'll get back to you with a better answer. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so all right, so yeah, all right. So thanks for those tough questions, Ian. They're great ones. So I'm going to, yeah, like I said, take it on as homework. All right, let's see. I think I've caught up here, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So this is the last one, and this one's a little tough, and Cian, you win the prize for the tough questions today, so thank you for that. I have a little bit of homework, and I can only give you a little bit of a wishy-washy answer for this one, because it's a beauty. So Cian's got a question about using multiple listings for the same product, and so she's got 4 listings that could work for multiple holidays. In her question here, she's talked about having 2 listings that target Christmas and 2 that target Valentine's Day, or have all 4 target both Christmas and Valentine's Day. And there's 2 parts to the question here. The second part gets a bit harder for me to answer, and it's probably a good one to put out to the group to see, to get multiple opinions on this one. Similar, she offers wreaths in multiple colours, say orange, red and pink. Is it better to have one listing that targets orange Halloween and one that targets red Christmas and one that targets pink Valentine's? And have all the listings all target, let me rephrase that, have all the listings target all the colours / holidays. So I've got an opinion on that. You know, I generally like to fall back on the Etsy's Ultimate Guide to Search or their seller's handbook, but I couldn't really find too much that I thought was useful in this case. So we don't have a lot of guidance from them. So, you know, this is going to be a little on the subjective side. So that's why I think it's a good question to ask the group to get multiple opinions to see if there is some sort of consensus out there. But in my opinion, I think that, you know, really I would focus listings on specific events. I think that that way you're not mixing themes or ideas or concepts, and Etsy's got a more singular view that they can focus on. So with that in mind, I would have one or a couple focusing specifically on Christmas, others focusing on Valentine's Day, so you don't have you know, some sort of pollution, I guess, or cross-contamination or something like that of the listings. Now, that's just my take on it. It also means that instead of having 13 tags where they're trying to do dual purpose, you can really focus on a single purpose, which could be focusing on Christmas or on Valentine's Day. And that's really why I like them, in that I'd like to separate them. Now, that said, I know that a lot of people do a couple of things. They will have those dual purpose tags, those catch-all tags, so it could be a whole bunch of events or holidays, it could be a whole bunch of recipients. And I know that people have used that with great success. I also know that people have changed the tags throughout the year. So they may, around about this time, be dropping Valentine's Day tags from some listings and putting Christmas in there. And I've seen mixed results there. My wife's tried that a couple of years ago. That seemed to work pretty well on Etsy. For her in recent times, it hasn't worked so well. So, you know, again, these are just different opinions and pieces of feedback that I've been able to gather. And like I said, there's no common message that I've been hearing in the feedback that I've gotten. But by all means, I'd say post that into the group. I think it's a great question, and it may be really interesting to see what other people have done and whether they've had success, and see whether there is some sort of consensus, like I said. The other bit I wanted to say is that when it comes to different colors, you may want to poke into the Color Thesaurus on eRank and just see if there are any other color ideas that may be useful for you. That's a free tool that we've got on eRank, and maybe I'll quickly show how that works, because it's been a little while since I've presented that. Let me see. Browser. Here we go. So the Color Thesaurus is in the Tools menu. So if you go down to here like so, you can use it in 2 ways. You can click on a color that's close to what you're looking for. In this case, I clicked on red. So you can get some variations in here. So scarlet, ruddy, lust, some interesting color variations in there. You've also got the RGB or the hex codes, color codes in there as well. So you may find some interesting ideas in there. We've got, you can do it, say, for green. I'm just using the search box in this case. so we can see different variations in there. Be very careful. There are a couple of trademarked terms in there. I think there's a Tiffany in there, so you want to be really careful. There we go. So we've got a Tiffany blue in there, so just be careful. It gives you ideas. If you're targeting Tiffany blue but don't want to use Tiffany blue, then you could click on that and find some similar colors and dodge the IP infringement rules in a safer way. So anyway, that's the Color Thesaurus that I thought might be useful for a lot of people as well. If you get stuck for ideas, you can start to look through here and go, it's Tiffany blue, but I think turquoise might be a safer option. And actually turquoise is pretty good because it's a very popular color that's searched for very often. Okay, all right, now let me switch back here again. So that was the last slide that I wanted to go through. So really it's just down to question time. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to type them in. I'm going to catch up on the chat window here. I think there may have been one or two more here. Let's quickly scroll through here. Siri, in your tags, I always thought they had to be in exact order. Sorry, I've lost the context there, Siri, but if you can explain what you mean by that, then I can probably give you a nod or a confirmation of that. Let's see. Thanks for mentioning the changing tags throughout the year. I was wondering about that too. Yeah, it's so subjective. Like I said, it'll work for some people, it won't work for others there. But it could be something worthwhile. Pop it into the group. I think it's a really good question. Like I said, three times. And I'm glad you like the Color Thesaurus. It's one of those little tools that we've hidden in the menu up there. Doesn't get a lot of use, but it can be pretty handy. All right, so any other questions? Get them in now, otherwise we might wrap up the session for today. I know I've got a bit of homework to do to follow up on there, so nope, chat window looks pretty quiet. All right, guys, well, I'm going to wrap it up early today. We started on time and we're actually finishing before time, so you've got a little bit of lunchtime left over if you're at work and tuning in. Have a great afternoon. Remember, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. That helps us get a little bit more popular in YouTube. Click on the bell icon. That gives you little reminders when we're going live and when we create more videos. And apart from that, thanks for tuning in today, and have a great rest of the week, and we'll chat again very soon. Okay, bye for now.